Early on the morning of our 10th wedding anniversary, a giant bouquet of 99 red roses from my husband arrived at our company's front desk. My coworkers gathered around, squealing with envy, gushing about how we were still as madly in love as newlyweds even after a decade of marriage. But as I was getting a vase to arrange the flowers, I overheard the cleaning ladies gossiping in the breakroom. Elena is so clueless. Ethan literally brought his side piece into the company 3 years ago, and she still has no idea. Exactly. Every anniversary, he gets his wife a generic bouquet of roses, but he buys his little mistress designer bags, sports cars, and luxury apartments. It's pretty obvious who he actually loves, right? My heart violently seized. A year ago, Ethan said he wanted to buy a luxury condo downtown, claiming it would be convenient for hosting high-end clients. I bought it. Last month, he wanted to upgrade his car to a Porsche, saying it would make him look more professional when meeting investors. I put down the deposit. And just last week, he asked me to use my VIP account at Hermes to buy a bunch of lifestyle accessories, claiming he needed to gift a VIP client a rare handbag. Suddenly, my phone buzzed in my hand. Hi, is this Mrs. Elena Vance? The limited edition Hermes Birkin you ordered has arrived at our boutique. I took a deep breath, turned on my heel, and headed straight to the luxury store. Since these things were never meant for clients in the first place, it was time for me to take them all back. Hey babe, did that Hermes bag you helped me order finally arrive? I had just walked into the private VIP lounge and picked up the limited edition orange Birkin, which required over $100,000 in pre-spending, when Ethan's call came through. I looked up and caught the sales associate's smile freezing on her face. So my husband had his own eyes and ears inside the store. Yeah, I just got it, I replied, my voice sounding flat even to my own ears. Ethan's voice was instantly pumped with excitement. Awesome. I'll swing by and grab it after work. I actually have a dinner meeting with a major client tonight to lock down that new project. I slowly ran my fingers over the supple, pebbled leather of the bag. It was the classic Hermes orange. Bright, flashy, and attention-grabbing. I had always hated loud colors like this. Most of Ethan's high-profile business clients were around my age. None of them would realistically carry a bag in the shade. That was why, when I placed the order last week, I had specifically requested a classy, understated A-taupe gray. Which client are you gifting this to? I can just have my assistant deliver it directly to their office, I said casually. Silence stretched over the line for 2 agonizing seconds. Babe, come on, it's our anniversary today. Why would I want to stress you out with work errands? Ethan chuckled nervously. Plus, you haven't been involved in this specific project. You wouldn't be able to chat with them about the details if they ask. He was dodging the question, talking in circles. Since last year, Ethan had practically moved into the gym. He was constantly flexing his new abs in the mirror and spending 30 minutes styling his hair every single morning before leaving for work. My best friend had joked once, asterisk, is your husband going through a midlife crisis? Or is he having an affair? Asterisk. I had laughed it off back then. Ethan and I had been together for 10 years, surviving the transition from college sweethearts to business partners. I was the one who stood by him when he had absolutely nothing. I was the one who ignored my wealthy family's warnings and used my own inheritance and connections to fund a startup. I watched him grow from a clueless boy into a polished CEO. We survived the worst of times together. Why couldn't we share the best of times? My eyes burned with unshed tears. Fine. Come pick it up now then, I said, hanging up before he could respond. I closed my eyes. Memories of us huddling together in our cramped, freezing studio apartment years ago flashed across my mind. But they were instantly shattered by the image of him today, meticulously styling his hair in front of the vanity. As it turned out, the pain of a breaking heart was far worse than physical labor. My hands trembled as I unlocked my phone and texted the real estate broker who had helped us buy the downtown condo last year. I need you to sell the downtown condo immediately. List it for $1 million cash today. The broker replied almost instantly. Elena, are you serious? That is way below market value. You paid nearly double that amount last year. My heart felt completely numb. Just sell it. Today. Right after I locked my phone, Ethan rushed into the VIP lounge. Babe, what made you decide to come pick up the bag yourself today? I glanced at my watch. It had taken him less than 20 minutes to get here. Was he really that terrified of me uncovering his little secret? The store manager called me and said my VIP order was ready, so I happened to be in the area, I said smoothly. Ethan shot a sharp, warning glare at the sales associate, Sarah. But when he turned back to me, his face softened into his usual warm, loving expression. I smiled faintly, pretending not to notice their little exchange. By the way, Ethan, I distinctly remember ordering the A-taupe gray last week. Why did Sarah hand me an orange one? Ethan's face went stiff, and he fell silent. I tapped my fingers on the luxury bag and turned my gaze to Sarah. This isn't the bag I ordered. You've completely wasted my time and my husband's. I paused, my voice cold. Should I file a formal complaint with corporate? Sarah panicked, shooting a desperate, pleading look at Ethan. But Ethan remained quiet, sweat practically beads on his forehead. No, ma'am. It wasn't my mistake. Your husband was the one who, Sarah started to stammer. Ethan quickly cut her off. Babe, the bag is actually for the client's daughter. He lied smoothly, flashing a reassuring smile. I was worried a young girl wouldn't like the boring gray you chose, so I called Sarah back and had her switch it to the orange one. A young girl? I caught my reflection in the polished glass storefront. I still looked virtually the same as I did 10 years ago, stylish, sharp, and well-kept. But in his eyes, I was already the old wife. Sensing the tension, Sarah quickly pulled a silk scarf from the display cabinet and placed it gently near my hand. I am so sorry, Mrs. Vance. This was miscommunication on our part for not notifying you beforehand. Please accept our sincerest apologies. Ethan reached over, rubbing his hand through my hair, and slid close to me on the plush velvet sofa. To avoid office gossip, he had always refused to show any form of physical affection toward me at the office. I felt a wave of discomfort and subtly shifted away from his touch. He frowned slightly, then gave Sarah a quick wink. Sarah, go grab some of your latest arrivals. Let my wife pick out whatever she wants. Watching him play the doting, guilty husband made me feel physically sick. I rarely visited this boutique myself. Usually, whenever he claimed a client needed a gift, I would just call and put it on my card. But seeing how comfortable and familiar he was with Sarah, it was obvious he had been spending a lot of time and my money in this store. Babe, I know you're upset about the color mix-up, Ethan cooed, trying to wrap his arm around my waist. Tell you what, whatever you want in the store today, it's on me. Happy anniversary. Sarah brought out a dozen gorgeous bags, laying them out in front of me. Every color, every style. But I felt absolutely nothing. I waved my hand dismissively. Forget it. I have a meeting with some partners this afternoon anyway. I looked at him. Didn't you say you had to deliver that gift to your client? You should get going. Right on cue, Ethan's phone buzzed in his pocket. He quickly planted a soft kiss on my forehead. Don't be mad at me, okay? I promise to make it up to you tonight. I watched him stand up, check his phone, and practically skip out of the boutique. His steps were so light, so full of anticipation. I let out a bitter, self-deprecating laugh. You really can't hide the energy of someone who is freshly in love. I had been so blind for so long, busy running the actual business, while he was out playing boyfriend. The moment he disappeared from view, I stood up and walked over to Sarah. I want to see the full transaction history under his authorized user card. Sarah looked me up and down, a hint of hesitation in her eyes. I'm sorry, Mrs. Vance, but that is private client information. We aren't authorized to share transaction details without the primary user's consent. There was a subtle, condescending smirk on her face, as if she assumed I was just a wealthy trophy wife throwing a tantrum. Even if you complain to corporate, our policy stands, she added. I reached into my Chanel wallet, pulled out my Centurion black card, and slammed it onto the glass counter. Sarah's eyes went wide, and her smug attitude instantly evaporated. The card he uses? It's just an authorized user card linked directly to my primary account, I said, my voice deadpan. Now, do I have the right to see where my money is going? Sarah bowed her head quickly, taking the card with trembling hands. Of course, ma'am. I will pull up the records immediately. A second later, the computer screen populated with page after page of transaction history. In the past month alone, there was over $80,000 of spending on high-end jewelry, women's shoes, and ready-to-wear pieces. I scanned the customer profile linked to those purchases. The phone number listed wasn't Ethan's. I memorized the number instantly. Print the entire history out for me. Now. Holding the thick stack of printed receipts, I walked out of the store into the crisp afternoon air. I pulled out my phone and texted my personal assistant, Amy. Find out who owns this phone number immediately. Also, run a forensic audit on Ethan's personal bank accounts and our corporate expense reports for the last 3 years. Less than 2 minutes later, Amy replied, Elena, I found it. The phone number is registered to Chloe Miller, our front desk receptionist. When I walked back into our corporate headquarters, I immediately spotted a group of girls crowded around the reception desk. That bright, limited edition orange Hermes Birkin was being passed around like a trophy. Oh my God, Chloe. This bag is absolutely stunning. Isn't this virtually impossible to get? One of the girls squealed in awe. I walked over, casually reached into the circle and snatched the bag right out of their hands. I examined it for a few seconds. Yep. It was the exact bag I had just authorized at the boutique. It is incredibly hard to get, I said, looking up with a cold smile. I've been on the wait list for a month and couldn't even get my hands on one. Chloe's face instantly twisted in annoyance. She snatched the bag back from my hands, clutching it to her chest. Well, my boyfriend bought it for me. Doesn't Elena's husband buy her things like this? Chloe smirked, her voice dripping with malice. Oh, wait. I guess when a man has to go home to a wrinkly, exhausted wife every day, he probably doesn't feel like buying her luxury gifts anyway. The other girls exchanged knowing, amused glances, clearly enjoying the drama. Yeah, did Elena only get a cheap bouquet of roses for her anniversary today? One whispered. My boyfriend says roses are so basic. They're just for show. If a man really loves you, he buys you the best, Chloe bragged, tossing her curled hair. I looked at the smug, mocking faces of the girls around her. It clicked. The entire office knew Ethan was sleeping with a receptionist. I was the only fool kept in the dark, working myself to the bone to fund their lifestyle. The pain in my chest was so suffocating I could barely breathe. Since we got married, Ethan had stopped buying me real gifts. He always used the same excuse. Babe, we've been together forever. My money is your money. There's no point in wasting cash on flashy gifts. Yet every single anniversary, he'd order a generic bouquet of roses. He used to tell me roses represented eternal devotion. But the truth was I hated roses. I had sent him countless hints on Pinterest of the wildflowers and orchids I actually liked. But the next year, it would be the same lazy roses. I had always excused it, thinking he was just a typical, clueless guy who didn't understand aesthetics. But he wasn't clueless at all. He knew exactly how to pick out the perfect, vibrant orange bag for his 20-something mistress. He knew how to buy her a BMW and rent her a luxury condo. He didn't lack effort. He just didn't want to waste it on me. Seeing that I remained silent, Chloe grew even bolder, puffing her chest out. Oh dear, is Elena going to cry? She mocked. It's just a bag. If you want one so bad, I have plenty of older designer bags in my closet. I can toss you one of my hand-me-downs if you ask nicely. Over the past 2 years, Chloe had been showing up to work every day draped in different designer brands. I had actually wondered once how a receptionist making $15 an hour could afford a wardrobe like that. I had naively assumed she was just a spoiled trust fund kid working an easy job for fun. Who would have thought that her lavish lifestyle was entirely funded by my sweat and tears? Half the bags she owned were ordered through my own VIP accounts. A cold rage surged through my veins, but my face became terrifyingly calm. No thank you, I said, my voice ice cold. Keep your trash to yourself. Chloe rolled her eyes and gasped dramatically, covering her mouth. Are you jealous, Elena? But honestly, you're pushing 40. This bright orange really doesn't suit an older, washed-up woman like you anyway. I let out a sharp, mocking laugh. You're right. This color doesn't suit me. It suits a pathetic, home-wrecking gold digger perfectly. Chloe's face flushed red with anger, her eyes instantly welling with fake tears. What did you just call me? Elena, just because your husband doesn't love you anymore doesn't give you the right to abuse your employees. The other girls quickly chimed in to defend her. Yeah, Elena, just because you have marriage problems doesn't mean you can bully Chloe. No wonder Ethan always looks so exhausted and miserable around the office. Having a toxic boss for a wife must be a nightmare. They were already treating Chloe like she was the next CEO's wife. I stared at Chloe with absolute detestation. You know exactly what you are. I didn't waste another second arguing with them. I turned around and walked straight back to my office. Ugh, whatever. She only got her position because of Ethan anyway. Without him, she's absolutely nothing. I know, right? Don't let her get to you, Chloe. You're young, beautiful, and actually capable. Soon enough, you'll. Their loud, petty whispers echoed down the hallway. I got my position because of Ethan? A dark, mocking smile spread across my face. I pulled out my phone and messaged my assistant. Amy, cancel the Friday happy hour early dismissal for everyone involved in that conversation at the front desk. When I returned to my office on the top floor, Amy was already standing by my desk, holding a thick leather folder. Her expression was solemn, but her eyes burned with quiet indignation. Elena, I finished the preliminary forensic audit, Amy said softly, closing the door behind her. It's worse than we thought. I sat down in my leather executive chair, leaning back. Tell me. Over the past 3 years, Ethan has routed over $2.4 million through dummy vendor accounts under the guise of marketing expenditures and VIP client relations, Amy explained, placing the open folder before me. The money flowed directly into an offshore account registered under Chloe Miller's name. In addition, the Porsche deposit you put down last month? He didn't just order one. He attempted to put down a second custom order for a convertible under her name. I traced my fingers over the bank statements. Every single dollar Ethan spent to groom his side piece was earned through my sweat, my family's initial capital, and my sleepless nights negotiating contracts. When we found Advanced Logistics 10 years ago, my father gave me a $10 million trust fund on the condition that Ethan prove his worth as. To protect Ethan's fragile male ego, I let him hold the title of Chief Executive Officer while I stepped into the background as Chief Operating Officer. I handed him the spotlight, let him take credit for our major acquisitions, and silently managed the entire operational supply chain myself. He thought he was a mastermind. In reality, he was just a puppet I had funded. What about the downtown condo? I asked, my voice deadly calm. The broker found a cash buyer within an hour, an investment firm looking for quick turnarounds, Amy replied. Because the condo title was registered solely in your name under your premarital trust, your signature was all that was needed. The sale contract is finalized. The buyer just wired $1.1 million directly into your personal account. Ethan has no idea. Good, I said, a cold smile touching my lips. What about his luxury cars? The Porsche dealership called. Ethan's upgrade is scheduled for delivery tomorrow morning at the office. Call the dealership manager, I instructed, tapping my desk. Inform them that, as the primary account holder and funder of the deposit, I am canceling the order immediately. Request a full refund of the deposit back to my private account. And tell them if Ethan shows up, he is to be turned away. Amy grinned. Understood. What about the authorized user cards? Freeze all secondary cards attached to my Centurion account immediately. Leave him with his personal account, the one with his base salary. Ethan's base salary as CEO was capped at $150,000 by our board of directors. A structure I put in place years ago to keep corporate taxes low while reinvesting profits back into the company. Without my black card and my trust fund, Ethan Vance was nothing more than a middle-class manager pretending to be a mogul. Oh, and Amy? I added, looking up. Draft a formal board meeting notice for this Friday. Agenda item, executive misconduct and financial restructuring. Right away, Elena. At 6 p.m., Ethan walked into my office without knocking, holding a sleek black velvet box. Babe, still working? He flashed his signature charismatic smile, walking over to wrap his arms around my shoulders. I leaned forward under the pretense of organizing my papers, smoothly dodging his touch. He froze for a fraction of a second, a flicker of irritation passing through his eyes before he quickly masked it. Yeah, just finishing up some quarterly reports, I said casually, keeping my eyes on my monitor. Ethan placed the velvet box on my desk, sliding it toward me with an exaggerated flourish. Happy 10th anniversary, my love. I know you were upset at the Hermes store earlier, so I stopped by Cartier on my way back to grab you something special. I opened the box. Inside lay a standard silver Cartier love bracelet, the basic, off-the-rack model that required no waitlist and cost around $7,000. I remembered looking through the audit records Amy gave me an hour ago. Just last week, Ethan had purchased a $45,000 diamond-paved Cartier Panther ring using my authorized card. Chloe had been wearing that exact ring on her index finger at the front desk this afternoon. He gave me the basic silver band. He gave his mistress the paved diamonds. Thank you, I said flatly, closing the box without putting it on. It's nice. Ethan's brows furrowed. In the past, whenever he bought me even a simple pair of earrings, I would smile, kiss his cheek, and praise his thoughtfulness. My cold reaction clearly unsettled him. Just nice? Ethan laughed nervously, adjusting his tie. Babe, come on. I spent hours picking that out. Anyway, I have to run to that dinner meeting with the client now. Don't wait up for me tonight, it might run late. Of course, I replied smoothly. Work comes first. As soon as he stepped out, I pulled up the GPS tracker installed on our shared company vehicle, a luxury SUV registered under my corporate entity. The vehicle didn't head toward the downtown financial district where our clients usually dined. Instead, it drove straight toward the Michelin-starred Italian restaurant on the waterfront, the one Chloe had posted about on her public Instagram story an hour ago with the caption, Anniversary dinner with my
King.
lucky girls get treated like royalty ring sparkles. I picked up my phone and called the restaurant manager, a personal friend of my family. Julian? It's Elena Vance.
Elena.
Happy anniversary. Are you joining Ethan tonight? He made a reservation. For two in the private VIP room under your corporate account. Julian, I'm calling to make a slight adjustment to that reservation. I said, a dark smile playing on my lips. Please detach my corporate black card from that reservation immediately. My husband will be paying with his personal debit card tonight.
Oh.
Is there a problem?
Julian asked, surprised.
Not at all. He just wants to pay out of his own pocket for a change, I replied, sweetly. Also, if his card happens to get declined, please ensure the bill is settled before they leave. We wouldn't want anyone skipping out on a $5,000 meal, would we? Understood, Elena. I'll handle it personally. At the waterfront restaurant, Ethan sat in a romantic, candlelit VIP dining room, pouring expensive vintage Dom Perignon into Chloe's glass. Chloe was wearing a low-cut designer dress, her wrists sparkling with a $45,000 Cartier ring and the bright orange Hermes Birkin sitting proudly on the velvet chair beside her. Ethan, your wife was so rude to me at the office today, Chloe pouted, resting her chin on her hands and looking at him with wide, teary eyes. She practically called me a gold digger in front of everyone. When are you finally going to divorce her? I'm sick of hiding. Ethan reached across the table, taking her hand and kissing her knuckles
Smoothly.
Be patient, baby. Elena's family still holds major leverage over the
Bored.
but I've been quietly shifting assets into our private accounts for the
Past year.
Once the new expansion project launches, next month I'll own 51% of the company's new subsidiary. Then I'll toss her a couple million, sign the divorce papers, and make you Mrs. Vance. Promise? Chloe purred. I promise. Ethan smiled confidently. Now let's order the white truffles and the wagyu. Tonight we celebrate. An hour and a half later, after devouring a lavish meal costing over $4,800, Ethan signaled the waiter for the check. Put it on the corporate VIP black card on file, Ethan said carelessly without looking up from his phone. The waiter returned 2 minutes later, accompanied by Julian, the restaurant general manager. Julian held a silver tray with the bill and a declined payment receipt. Mr. Vance, I apologize for the inconvenience, Julian said loudly enough for neighboring tables to hear. However, the corporate Centurion card on file was declined by the primary account holder, Mrs. Elena Vance.
Furthermore, she
requested that all personal dining expenses be settled via your personal card. Ethan's face went pale instantly.
What?
That's impossible. Try it again. We tried 3 times, sir, Julian said politely but firmly. The primary cardholder has revoked your authorized access. Chloe's eyes widened in horror. Ethan, what's going on? Ethan swallowed hard, his forehead dripping with cold sweat.
Fine.
Use my personal card. He pulled out his personal Visa debit card, the one linked to his personal checking account where he kept his daily spending money. Julian swiped the card. A red light flashed on the terminal. Declined. Insufficient funds. Sir, this card has also been declined, Julian said, his tone turning crisp. Your current balance is insufficient to cover the $5,200 bill. Ethan's jaw dropped. He had just transferred $50,000 from his personal account yesterday to pay off Chloe's credit card bill. He currently had less than $2,000 in cash left in that account. That's a mistake. Let me call my bank. Ethan panicked, his voice rising. Mr. Vance, we have a strict policy, Julian said, subtly signaling 2 tall security guards who stepped up to the table. If you cannot settle the bill tonight, we will have to call the police for theft of services. Ethan, Chloe squeaked, her face red with embarrassment as diners from surrounding tables began whispering and taking out their phones. Do something. This is so humiliating. Ethan's hands trembled violently. He looked at Chloe, then at her Hermes bag. Chloe, do you have any cash or cards? Ethan whispered desperately.
What?
You want me to pay? Chloe gasped in disbelief. I'm the receptionist. You're the CEO. Just pay the bill first. I'll transfer the money to you tomorrow. Ethan hissed. Under his breath, Chloe gritted her teeth, angrily pulling out a credit card from her Birkin.
When?
The waiter swiped it. The transaction went through, depleting her entire personal credit limit. The romantic dinner ended in absolute silence. As they walked out of the restaurant, Chloe stomped her heels, her face twisted in rage. Ethan Vance, you promised me you were a billionaire CEO. How could your card get declined at a dinner? Shut up, Chloe. Ethan snapped, his own composure completely breaking down. Elena must have done something to the accounts. I need to get home right now. Ethan burst into our villa at 10:30 p.m., slamming the front door shut. I was sitting in the living room, drinking a glass of red wine while sipping tea, calmly reading a business report on my iPad.
Elena.
What is the meaning of this? Ethan shouted, storming into the living room, his face flushed with anger and embarrassment. Why did you block my corporate black card? Do you have any idea how much you humiliated me in front of my client tonight? I slowly lowered my iPad, looking at him with a cool, detached gaze. Humiliated you? I asked softly. Ethan, that card belongs to my family trust. You are using corporate and personal trust funds to pay for expensive dinners, while ignoring company policy. As COO, I am simply conducting a financial risk management cleanup. Risk management? Ethan yelled, stepping closer. I am the CEO of Vance Logistics. I have the right to entertain clients. You cut off my access without even telling me. A client? I smiled faintly, picking up my wine glass. Which client, Ethan? Did the client happen to wear a $45,000 Cartier ring? Did the client enjoy white truffles and Dom Perignon while complaining about your wrinkly, exhausted wife? Ethan frozen on the spot. The blood drained from his face so fast he looked like a corpse. What are you talking about? He stammered, his confident posture collapsing. Instantly. Elena, you're misunderstanding. Am I? I stood up smoothly, picking up a folder from the coffee table and
Tossing it at his chest.
the papers scattered across the marble floor. They were high-definition photos taken by a private investigator, Ethan holding hands with Chloe at the Porsche dealership, Ethan kissing Chloe at the airport, before a weekend trip to Maui, and bank receipts showing millions of dollars transferred into Chloe's offshore accounts. Ethan fell to his knees, his eyes wildly scanning the documents. Elena, listen to me. Ethan scrambled forward, reaching out to grab the hem of my dress, his voice cracking with desperate panic. It's not what it looks like. She seduced me. Chloe threatened to release fake company secrets if I didn't comply. I only did it to protect our company. To protect our company? I chuckled, a sound devoid of any warmth. By buying her a luxury condo? By buying her sports cars and designer bags with my money? I don't love her. I swear to God, Elena, I love only you. Ethan wept hot, tears running down his face as he banged his head against the floor. We started from nothing. Remember our freezing studio apartment? Remember how we promised to stay together forever? I made a mistake, a temporary weakness.
Please give
me one more chance. I looked down at the man begging at my feet. 10 years ago, I thought his tears were genuine. Now, I saw them for what they truly were, the pathetic panic of a parasite losing its host. You're right, Ethan. We started from nothing, I said quietly, leaning down to look into his terrified eyes. And starting tomorrow, you will have nothing. Again. Elena, get out of my house, I commanded, my voice turning into razor-sharp ice.
the
Deed to this villa is in my name. Security is waiting outside. If you aren't gone in 5 minutes, I'll have you removed for trespassing. 2 tall, burly security guards walked into the living room, stepping between
us.
Ethan looked at the guards, then at my unyielding, frozen expression. Realizing that begging wouldn't work, his face suddenly twisted into a bitter, menacing
glare. Fine.
You want to play hardball, Elena? Ethan hissed, standing up and wiping his tears with his sleeve. Don't forget, I am still the chief executive officer and founder of Vance Logistics. The board answers to me. The key investors trust
Me.
Without me running the public operations, your family's investment is worthless paper. You pull your money, and the company collapses, and you lose everything too. Is that so? I smiled softly. We'll see about that at Friday's board meeting. By Thursday morning, news of Ethan and my marital rift had secretly circulated among the high-level executives, though the lower-level staff remained blissfully ignorant. Ethan arrived at the office dressed in a crisp, bespoke suit, trying to project absolute authority. He believed that as long as he held the support of the 3 major external board members, who were his personal golf buddies, he could force me into a settlement and retain his executive control. Meanwhile, Chloe was sitting at the reception desk, looking utterly exhausted and miserable. Her credit card had been maxed out from the restaurant bill, and Ethan hadn't refunded her a single penny. To make matters worse, when she tried to enter the underground parking garage that morning in the BMW Ethan had bought her, security turned her away. "Why can't I park in the executive spot?" Chloe shrieked at the security guard. "Miss Miller, the corporate lease on that vehicle was terminated by COO Elena Vance this morning," the guard replied coldly. "The vehicle is slated for repossession by noon. Please clear your personal belongings from the car immediately." "What?" Chloe screamed, her face contorting in rage. She stomped into Ethan's office, slamming the door shut. "Ethan, what is going on?" Chloe cried, throwing her Hermes bag onto his desk. "The guards took my parking spot. They said my BMW is being repossessed.
And my
credit card is maxed out because of your stupid dinner. Fix this right now." Ethan was already drowning in stress, staring at dozens of formal notices from banks and suppliers. Hearing Chloe's demands sent his temper over the edge. "Shut the hell up, Chloe," Ethan barked, slamming his fist on the desk.
can't.
"You see I'm dealing with a crisis? A stupid car is the least of my problems. Right now," Chloe gasped, taking a step back, stunned by his sudden outburst. You raised your voice at me? You promised me you'd fire Elena and make me the boss's wife. Use your brain." Ethan sneered bitterly. "Elena froze all the trust accounts. She liquidated the downtown condo and canceled the Porsche. Right now, if I can't win the board vote tomorrow, we are both finished." Chloe's heart plummeted into a cold abyss. "Wait." Chloe's voice trembled as the horrific reality finally began to dawn on her. The condo was hers. The Porsche was hers. The VIP store accounts were all her money. Of course they were her money, you idiot. Ethan shouted in frustration.
Did.
"You really think a startup CEO could casually drop millions on designer trinkets without her backing?" Chloe staggered backward, her face drained of all color. All this time, she believed Ethan was a self-made billionaire prince who showered her with his vast fortune because he adored her. She had mocked Elena for being an old, washed-up, dependent wife. Now, she realized the horrifying truth. Ethan was nothing more than a glorified gigolo living off his heiress wife's inheritance, and she was just a pathetic accomplice who had been fed the crumbs. Friday morning arrived. The atmosphere inside the grand boardroom on the top floor of Vance Logistics was suffocatingly tense. The 10 members of the board of directors were seated around the massive mahogany table. Ethan sat at the head of the table, wearing a confident smile, though the dark circles under his eyes betrayed his exhaustion. Beside him sat his 3 key ally directors, Mr. Harrison, Mr. Vance, his uncle, whom he had brought onto the board, and Mr. Miller. I sat at the opposite end of the table, dressed in a sharp, tailored white suit, flanked by Amy and my family's senior corporate legal team. Ethan cleared his throat, leaning forward with an air of authority. "Thank you all for attending this emergency board session," Ethan began.
Smoothly.
"As you know, our annual shareholder meeting and 10th anniversary celebration gala are scheduled for tonight. However, COO Elena Vance has recently taken unauthorized personal actions, freezing executive accounts, liquidating corporate real estate assets, and disrupting vendor operations. I am calling for a formal board vote today to strip Elena Vance of her COO title and operational authority due to personal bias interfering with company growth." Mr. Harrison immediately nodded in agreement. "I second the motion. Elena, while we respect your status as a founding investor, Ethan is the face of this company. Your recent financial freezes are endangering our public image." Ethan smirked across the table at me, his eyes gleaming with triumphant malice. He thought he had the votes locked up. I remained seated, calmly lifting my teacup and taking a slow, deliberate sip. "Are you finished, Ethan?" I asked softly. Ethan's smile faltered slightly. "Elena, don't make this uglier than it needs to.
B.
If you step down quietly, I will grant you a generous severance package during our divorce proceedings." "Divorce package?" I let out a light, musical laugh that echoed through the silent room. "Ethan, you seem to be confused about who is granting what." I signaled to Amy. Amy immediately distributed thick, red folders to every single board member, except Ethan and his 3 allies. At the same time, the large presentation screen behind Ethan flickered to life. "Over the past 3 years," I announced, my voice ringing through the room with unquestionable authority, CEO Ethan Vance has embezzled a total of $14.20 million from Vance Logistics through fraudulent shell corporations, unauthorized luxury spending, and illegal tax evasion schemes. The board members gasped, instantly opening the red folders. What? This is slander. Ethan jumped out of his chair, his face turning beet.
Red.
She's lying. She forged those documents because she's jealous of my personal life. Page 12. I continued calmly, ignoring his outburst. You will find bank wire receipts transferring $2.4 million directly from our primary client escrow account into an offshore account owned by company receptionist Chloe Miller. Page 18 features forensic video footage from Cartier, Hermes, and luxury auto dealerships showing Ethan Vance utilizing corporate capital to purchase personal assets under his mistress's name. The directors began reading rapidly, their faces morphing from confusion to absolute horror and disgust. My God. Ethan, is this true? One senior director yelled, slamming his hand on the table. You used client escrow funds to buy luxury bags for a receptionist?
No.
It's a setup. Ethan panicked, turning to his allies. Harrison, uncle,
Tell them.
I've been driving profits for 10 years. Mr. Harrison looked down at the overwhelming paper trail of illegal embezzlement. In front of him, his face pale. Stepping into marital drama was one thing. Being accomplice to corporate embezzlement was a federal crime. Harrison immediately shifted his body away from Ethan, remaining silent. Furthermore, I stated, standing up and buttoning my suit jacket, as the representative of the Vance Family Trust, which holds 55% of the voting shares in this company, I hereby exercise my legal right to call an immediate vote of no confidence. I raise my hand. All those in favor of immediately terminating Ethan Vance as Chief Executive Officer, stripping him of all equity options and turning his financial records over to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, raise your hand. Every single board member, including Ethan's 3 former allies, slowly raised their hands into the air. Ethan felt the floor beneath him completely collapse. He fell back into his chair, his eyes wide with unadulterated horror. Motion passed unanimously, I said coldly. Ethan Vance, you are officially fired. The news of Ethan's termination was kept strictly confidential for 6 hours, just long enough for the evening's 10th anniversary gala to begin at the Grand Hyatt Ballroom downtown. Ethan, desperate to save his reputation and believing he could still leverage his industry connections to raise capital, sneaked into the gala wearing his tuxedo. He believed that if he could convince our major investor, the legendary billionaire venture capitalist Arthur Sterling, to back him personally, he could start a rival company and crush me. Chloe, refusing to be left behind, had snuck in with him, wearing a stolen red carpet dress and clutching her Hermes Birkin like a lifeline. She hoped tonight would still be her grand debut into high society. The grand ballroom was magnificent, filled with hundreds of business tycoons, reporters, corporate partners, and socialites. Ethan spotted Arthur Sterling standing near the front stage, sipping champagne. Ethan's eyes lit up with desperate hope. He quickly grabbed 2 glasses of champagne and walked over, dragging Chloe behind him. Mr. Sterling, Ethan called out, putting on his most charming smile. It's such an honor to see you tonight. I wanted to personally discuss our upcoming expansion project. Arthur Sterling turned around. He was a distinguished, white-haired man in his 60s with piercing blue eyes. He looked at Ethan with an expression of cold, unbothered detachment. Ethan Vance, Arthur said coldly. I don't believe we have anything to discuss. Mr. Sterling, please, Ethan pressed nervously. I know there have been some minor internal restructuring rumors today, but as the visionary behind Vance Logistics, I assure you that my personal leadership is the sole reason for this company's success. Your success. A clear, elegant voice echoed from the stage speakers. The crowd quieted down as the spotlight shifted to the main stage. I stood at the podium, wearing an exquisite black silk gown adorned with emerald diamonds, a family heirloom worth millions. I looked commanding, breathtaking, and effortlessly regal. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 10th anniversary of Vance Logistics. I spoke into the microphone, my voice radiating composure and power. 10 years ago, this company was founded on a vision of integrity, hard work, and excellence. Today, as we step into a new era, I am proud to announce that Vance Logistics is officially undergoing a complete rebrand to Vance Global Enterprises. The crowd applauded warmly. And tonight, I continued, turning my gaze directly toward Ethan and Chloe. Standing in the middle of the room, we are also shedding the toxic dead weight that held this company back. The massive digital screens behind me suddenly changed. Instead of corporate presentation slides, high-definition images appeared on the 50-foot screen. 1. Detailed audit receipts of corporate embezzlement totaling $14.2 million.
2.
Clear video clips of Chloe Miller boasting at the front desk. If a man really loves you, he buys you the best. Elena is just a wrinkly, exhausted wife. 3. Bank transaction logs showing Ethan using corporate funds to purchase the bright orange Hermes Birkin. Gasps of outrage and shock erupted across the ballroom. Hundreds of guests turned their heads simultaneously, staring directly at Ethan and Chloe. Reporters immediately raised their cameras, flashes blinding the room, as they snapped hundreds of photos of the caught red-handed cheaters. Oh my God, that's the CEO and the receptionist. He stole $14 million to buy his mistress luxury bags. How disgusting. His wife built that entire company for him. Look at her holding that bag. What a shameless gold digger. Chloe's face turned bright red, then ghostly white. She tried to cover her face with her hands, but the camera flashes were relentless. Ethan, make them stop. Turn off the screens. Chloe screamed hysterically, hiding behind Ethan. Ethan was shaking violently, his face contorted in utter humiliation and panic.
Elena, stop this.
You're destroying my life. No, Ethan, I said into the microphone, my voice echoing across the silent ballroom. You destroyed your own life the moment you confused my patience for weakness. At that exact moment, the grand double doors of the ballroom swung open. 4 uniformed police officers and 2 federal investigators from the Financial Crimes Unit marched into the room, stepping directly through the parted crowd.
Toward Ethan.
Ethan Vance, the lead investigator asked, pulling out a badge and a formal warrant. You are under arrest for grand larceny, corporate embezzlement, wire fraud, and tax evasion. You have the right to remain silent.
Click.
Cold steel handcuffs snapped tightly around Ethan's wrists in front of the entire elite business community. No, unhand me. I'm the CEO. Elena, tell them it's a mistake. Ethan screamed, weeping hysterically as the officers dragged him backward across the polished floor. Elena, I love you. Please save me. I stood on stage, watching him wail like a pathetic child, without a single flicker of emotion in my eyes. As the officers hauled Ethan past Chloe, 2 luxury brand enforcement officers stepped forward, accompanied by corporate lawyers. Miss Chloe Miller, the lawyer said coldly. Under court order, all assets purchased via embezzled corporate funds, including that Hermes bag, the Cartier ring on your finger, and the designer dress you are currently wearing, are subject to immediate legal asset recovery as stolen property. What? No. This is my bag. Chloe shrieked, clutching the orange Birkin. Frantically, the enforcement officers didn't hesitate. They smoothly tore the Hermes bag from her hands, while a female officer instructed her to step into the private cloakroom immediately to strip off the stolen designer dress and jewelry, leaving her with nothing but basic coverwear.
No.
Give it back. Ethan, help me. Chloe sobbed hysterically, dropping to her knees on the floor, surrounded by mocking laughter, flashing cameras, and disgusted glares from society's elite. Her dream of becoming a wealthy CEO's wife had vanished into thin air, leaving her publicly exposed as a disgraced, penniless thief. 3 months later, the winter chill had passed, making way for the warm, crisp air of early spring. The high court trial of Ethan Vance and Chloe Miller had concluded weeks ago, dominating national business news. Ethan was convicted on multiple felony charges of corporate fraud, grand larceny, and embezzlement. He was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison, with all his personal assets seized and liquidated to pay restitution to Vance Global. His name was permanently blacklisted from the corporate world. Chloe Miller was sentenced to 2 years for receiving stolen property and corporate bribery. Stripped of every luxury item she ever owned, buried in legal debts, and carrying a criminal record, her reputation was completely ruined.
No
reputable company or high society circle would ever let her near their doors again. As for the downtown luxury condo, the Porsche deposit, and the Hermes VIP refunds, every single penny, totaling over $15 million, was fully recovered and safely deposited back into my private family trust. Today was the official opening of the new international headquarters of Vance Global Enterprises. I stood on the top floor balcony of our new glass skyscraper overlooking the city skyline, holding a hot cup of black tea. I was wearing a stunning, understated A-taupe gray silk suit, sleek, powerful, and elegant. Amy walked out onto the balcony, holding a tablet and a massive bouquet of fresh, vibrant purple orchids and wild lilies, my absolute favorite flowers. Elena, these just arrived for you from the board of directors, Amy smiled warmly, placing the gorgeous arrangement on the outdoor table. And here is the final signature for the acquisition of our European supply chain. I looked at the orchids, smelling their sweet, natural fragrance. No cheap, lazy, red roses. No fake promises. Just pure, beautiful reality. I took the stylus and signed my name cleanly across the electronic document. Elena Vance, Executive Chairwoman and Founder. Oh, by the way, Elena, Amy added casually. Ethan's legal counsel sent a letter from prison yesterday. He's begging for a visitation meeting. He claims he wants to apologize in person and ask for your forgiveness. I turned my head, looking out at the endless horizon, where the morning sun broke through the clouds, bathing the entire city in golden light. I smiled faintly, picking up my tea. Tell his lawyer I don't waste time visiting strangers. I turned my back on the past, taking a sip of tea, and stepped confidently forward into my own brilliant, unburdened future.